Hey everybody, welcome back to Pioneering Markets. My name is Mike Pitty-Loaded, and with me as always I got Jay. Jay, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. Looking forward to this interview.
Yeah, what we got today is a special show. We're going to be bringing to you a new stock that we're following, LithiumBank Resources, and with us today we have Gianni Kovacevic. Gianni, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Very focused, very motivated, and the macro does not change. Where really all major economies, including emerging economies, are going down this transition to electrification. And you can argue certain corners are going to do it quicker and slower, but we are going down that path. And the CAGR growth rate of these enablers, all of them, there's no one thing, but of course, lithium is something that's going to grow by 1,000%. It's going to be done in a combination of investment, but also technology. And the new way to extract lithium, and there are thousands of people working on that, and it's a fantastic speculation. And that's what LithiumBank is, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I mean, they call it the white gold lithium. I mean, just if you're looking to diversify your portfolio, you want something that makes sense. You want something that's being talked about on a daily basis. I mean, you can't turn on the news without seeing Elon Musk on there talking about it. Anything electric and everything electric. I was just at like a Home Depot the other day, and I'm looking at total electrified zero-turn mower. I mean, so everything, it seems to be going, obviously going carbon, zero carbon. We've got the support of governments from all over the world, especially here in North America, on your side in Canada, our side here in the U.S., but yet it just doesn't seem there's a lot of players yet. It just seems like it's a great opportunity for a company such as yourself to really get into this. Would you agree?
Well, absolutely. And for people listening to this program, some may have seen me along the way. I was a guy, I wrote a book called My Electrician Drives a Porsche in 2016. Has nothing to do with fast cars. It had everything to do with electricity, electrification. And it's a journey of enlightenment where this younger electrician takes his family doctor on this path of discovery and looking at the magnificence that is electrification. And if you look at a commercial that Nissan, the car company, did about 3 years ago, and they had what our world would look like without electrification. So you have someone jogging, and of course they have an internal combustion engine Walkman, or if you're turning on the microwave, you got to turn it on because if it's not electricity, it's got to be an internal combustion engine, and a photocopier, and at the dentist, and on and on and on. The reality is almost everything you buy comes with an electrical cord stuck out the back of it. But these are little things. And we went into the age of motorization, and motorization is typically meant the internal combustion engine, even though for over 100 years, when you're looking at big power, a DC motor is so strong that mining trucks, the wheels of mining trucks that are the size of a house, are often operated by electric, not diesel motors. They do them in both. Of course, they have the ability to do them both, but that too is going into a transition to be fully electrified. The shovels, the trucks, trains, the final two things that aren't going to be electrified are going to be airplanes and helicopters. But everything else in your life, I'm talking about transportation now, simple transportation, including semi-trailers and everything else. People don't believe that, but that is where we're going. And here's the shocking statistic. Today, as we speak, of all energy globally, of final energy usage, only 20% is electrification. And that number is going to climb to about 50% in the next 25, 30 years. And so copper is going to be a true winner there. Aluminum is going to be a true winner. But when the storage and being able to capture energy when it's abundant with sun or wind or whatever, and storing it, that's what we're talking about, batteries and cars. And the star of that show is, as you call it, white gold, lithium. And it's going to be it's going to continue to be on the front page, and I think we got a long, long way to go. We are just in the first inning, if you want to use a baseball analogy.
No, that's a great point, because here on Pioneering Markets, we're talking about getting into companies at the basement level, with great growth potential. And I think what you just mapped out speaks to that 100%. Long-term investing. This is a company, like I said, if you're looking to diversify, in my opinion, I'm not a financial advisor, and I know maybe you aren't either, Gianni, but it just makes sense. It's common sense. We know this is the direction we're going. We hear it daily through world news that governments are pooling money together to pick this off the ground. There's states here in the U.S. that are absolutely passing legislation to not sell combustion engine vehicles. So it's going to have to go there. We're going to have these materials to make this work. And if we've already got governments passing laws and legislation, it just points in the direction of how this makes sense.
Well, that's exactly right. So someone might ask themselves, well, how can I speculate? How can I follow this at a closer level? And there's been already a couple of lithium boom markets, the lithium 1.0 and the 2.0 boom market. And now what's happened? The world has gone into this strange, nervousness, and some things were overvalued. There is inflation. They're talking about raising rates, and we've just went through this big COVID thing. That has nothing to do with the transition we're talking about. And what's holding it back is the availability. There's that electric car company, or as I like to call them, an energy disruption company based out of Northern California, named after a famous Serbo-Creation scientist. I forget their name, but they're the ones that their well-known CEO or chairman keeps telling people that if you want to, corporations, technology companies, chemical companies, if you want to be in a fantastic business, get into the lithium game. Mm-hmm. Why are more people not doing that? And what he's saying, guys, is not that they should go into hard rock mining or go down into South America and start doing these evaporation ponds. I believe is this: how else can we get lithium? We have it in brines. We have it in other sources. All they care about is having something that is a battery-grade lithium product in hydroxide or carbonate. And the Saudi Arabia of this element comes from brines. And the Saudi Arabia happens to be in Alberta, Canada. There are other deposits. Saskatchewan has a prominent geological endowment. Arkansas, California, France, Germany, a couple other places. But the Saudi Arabia of it is in Alberta, and we happen to have staked it during the bear market boring days. The size of our project is the size of Rhode Island, to give you context. And also, just interestingly enough, for Americans, Alberta, the province, is roughly the same size as Texas, the state. Mm-hmm. So if you look at where our concessions are and just how prominent they are, they really stick out. We've got 3,300,000 acres under concession between Alberta and Saskatchewan. And so we're speculating that those thousands of people are really at the finish line. They're able to go through these various chemical processes and from briny water create battery-grade lithium chemicals. And we're there. Our job is to delineate world-class resources, size, and then economic models, PEM, preliminary economic assessment done by a world-class engineering firm that shows how can you actually, in theory, make a commercial business out of this. And with that document, we can then partner and share it with these many, thousands of people, but I'm talking there's dozens of corporations that are interested in this business. And how can we partner? How can we work together to create these lithium products and chemicals for the world, to feed in this, what is going to be 1,000% growth rate in the next 10 years. And you know what? We're there. We're at the finish line. And I think we need to look at the details exactly so people understand what LithiumBank has and the opportunity that we offer.
That's fantastic. One thing, I've had a couple of plays in the mining industry within Canada, and I want to hear from you. One thing that I saw is problematic, if you will, was getting the Canadian government on your side. There's really heavy environmental regulations and things that they keep very close to heart, which understandably so. We have that here in the States as well. But Canada, it seemed like there was a lot, trying to get permits and things like that. But it looks like LithiumBank has already got all that in place. You guys have the backing and support of the government. Is that safe to say?
Well, we're in the province of Alberta, which is the leading extractive industries province in Canada. And namely, we're talking about oil and gas. And so these petrol brines come from existing or retired oil well infrastructure. So it's already there. The workforce understands that. Pipelines, pumping, all of these various industries are already there working. And that is something that is, it's a process of permitting. And our projects are within such existing infrastructure areas. So we would submit to people that, of course, this is a process, but we're in a place that this is a business that if you have a business case, it moves forward. And more specifically, the provincial government of Alberta has been very supportive with some other industry players. And they've said that this is one of the, if not the most important future pillar of the Alberta economy.
Right.
And so this is extremely important for, I think, all levels of government and all levels of industry in Alberta. I would say we're in the right place at the right time in the right commodity. And the most interesting part of all the hard work that we've done, you've only just heard about us now, that's because we IPO'd on April 1st this year. And that's not an April Fool's thing. That's just that was the date that it came out at. And it came into a backdraft of extremely negative global stock markets. And all the hard work that we've done carefully over 4 years, and the capital that we raised on a couple different tranches, is you can buy that, you can buy the company, the business at a discount now. And I will submit to people, it's because we're in sympathy with everything else that's going on in the world. But if you are still picking away at LithiumBank or looking to enter in a position, this is an interesting entry point. And I'll just give you the basic economics why. Our last financing done in the summer of 2021, so 10, 11 months ago, we did it at $1.50 Canadian per share. We're currently trading at $1 Canadian per share. Okay, that's one metric. So very simple arithmetic. Our market cap is about 40 million Canadian dollars. And the share structure is not going to change that much, because once we complete this economic model with Hatch Engineering at our flagship project called Sturgeon Lake, we have over 300,000 acres in Saskatchewan that we were successful in auction, which it cost us over $3 million to obtain these concessions. And there's another company that people can follow in Saskatchewan that's IPOing shortly. You can Google it. It's prairielithium.ca. They have around 360,000 acres, something like that. We have 320,000 acres, but in the same basic area. And we're looking very, very quickly to obtain our initial resource at that project as well in Saskatchewan, including some other peripheral work at the rest of our portfolio. But most importantly, we are going to have, Mike, over $5 million in cash after everything is paid for, submitted, released to the market, and analyzed by the people that can put us finally in a comparables.
Nice, nice.
Project company. So you've got this PEA that's coming at Sturgeon Lake, an initial resource for the Saskatchewan portfolio, and serendipitously, we have a company going public in Saskatchewan with a similar acreage. So their value should be our value, let's say somewhere in the ballpark. In my own optimism, I'll say that. The market may disagree with me, but we should have something that's worth that. And our market cap is 40 million Canadian dollars. Now, it doesn't take a lot of persuasion if you're looking at the peer group. So some of the more mature companies doing these brine projects, two of them have market caps more than $1 billion US dollars. One actually now is about $1 billion Canadian. Another company was recently acquired by Rio Tinto for $825 million US dollars. So I think we're closer to the bottom than the top. And I think people should really take some comfort that we're not stupid. We're going to put all this work, all this hard work that we're doing, we're going to put it to the market. We're going to have everyone analyze it, put us in these comparables, put us in a peer group. We are cheap compared to the peer group. This will be more and more pronounced. And then if our shareholders are not rewarded, well, we're going to take our $5 million and very carefully allocate it. So we're moving the portfolio forward without spending big dollars, because the market's not ready for that. But most importantly, there's not going to be a stupid dilutive financing at these levels. We believe the baseline of $1.50 a share that was established last year. Look at the price of lithium. Look at any graph of any lithium company, including the fact that the market has come off here. We believe that $1.50 was something that should have been. There should be a multiple from there. And just looking at the peer group, and this is a forward-looking statement. If you look at what should be worth, what should LithiumBank be worth? This is my own opinion, and it's simply using the peer group. I'm not saying that it's a concrete fact, but it would be between $6 and $10 a share, somewhere there. So we're not there. We're trading at $1, and I think we're going to be able to close that gap. And we're working very hard to do that. And the only company I'm involved with, guys, is LithiumBank. It's the only thing I do. We're going to razor sharp focus. I've always done one company at a time. And
I think Faraday Copper was a great success.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got great management. It's on its way. It was a very nice segue for me to really launch this project here. And I'm available. I want to communicate the message, and I think as the market has more reception to what is now already, we're in lithium boom market 3.0. So let's see where the market takes us in the next sort of 12, 24, 48 months. But we have a great vehicle, an amazing share structure. I mean, 100% control of over 3 million acres. We deliver a ton of news over the next months, and we're still going to have $5 million in cash.
I think you got, what, 37 million shares outstanding? That's really
million. Exactly right.
Yep. And of that 5 million that you talked about that you'll have cash on hand at the end of everything said and done, have you earmarked that money for anything that you got in the back of your mind? Maybe there's any kind of project.
We need to see where the market's going to be, guys, because once we have the results of the PEA, and if they're successful, and then there will be recommendations by the independent consultants to take it to a pre-feasibility study level, and that takes another batch of cash. But it would be important to really articulate this to the analysts, the banking community. Our partners have already noted that there are thousands of people working at these chemical processes, which is dozens of different companies. They all want to know what we're doing, how we're doing it. This is going to take some time. This doesn't take a lot of money. You have to burn shoe leather, and you have to go and do this work. And then peripherally to establish a resource in Saskatchewan, because once again, there's existing oil well infrastructure. This is done by sampling water from what is already readily available and generating an initial resource estimate. And then from that, we would look at advancing the first economic model or PEA for the Saskatchewan portfolio as well. So, but there's multiple businesses within LithiumBank.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the infrastructure, being in Western Canada, have the Western Canada advantage with the technology, the labor force, the geographical data. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that technology and just how it works, kind of in layman's terms, and
yes.
As well as is extraction. Does that require third-party relationships in order to do that? And just talk a little bit about that.
So let's take this, forgive me, the engineers and the petrochemical engineers and all these people that are more well-versed, but let's pretend we're talking to someone in 10th grade high school, and to really simplify it. So we're talking about water, briny water, from deep reservoirs that are tens of kilometers wide and tens of kilometers long and 100 stories thick. So if you have existing oil well infrastructure, our concessions have over 500 previously drilled oil wells, billions of dollars of existing infrastructure, including pipelines, including the manpower and the know-how and everything that's already readily available there. So because of this, we're able to expeditiously and relatively cost effectively sample water across a large area to then have a blended average to get us a resource estimate so we can then calculate the grade. So what's the difference between Alberta and Chile? Chile has what people would know, those large evaporation ponds, higher grade. Typically, Chile would be 1,000 to 2,000 parts per million. Our project in Alberta would be 70 parts per million. Other projects are maybe 100, 120, somewhere there. So one might say, well, that's really low grade. That's got to be bad. Except that if you look at these 4 tablets here, once the water is pumped up, there's a very simple process upon which you can lift the grade of the lithium 20, 30, 40x. So now you have something closer to 1,000 or 2,000 parts per million, similar to Chile. So that's important for the next step, because then you're moving a lot less water through the next process
and quickly
to then create this chemical process that creates your lithium product. And to answer the question, the final part of the question, there are various companies that have a technology or a process or something proprietary. There's not one, there's no one single invention. And more are coming to the market, because as I've noted, there are thousands of people working on this process. And that is exactly, in my opinion, what I believe Elon Musk was telling these people. We need to be working on getting battery chemicals to the market. He is not talking about getting into hard rock mining. He's talking about taking this when you lift the ground through what is going to continue to be more and more processes. And who wins at the end of the day? We don't know. This is technology, and technology doubles every 3 or 4 years. And it's going to continue. This is exactly a technology meets chemistry process. And our job is one thing and one thing only: delineate world-class, gigantic resources, create economic models, and then partner with the various people that are doing that last mile. And that's exactly what's occurring right now. And so,
Gianni, correct me if I'm wrong. Of all the processes that you can do getting lithium, this is the most environmentally friendly, and the way that you're doing it with the brine in this fashion is the quickest, because I think it takes time for the evaporation ponds. You know, that's lengthy, I would imagine.
6 to 12 months, depending where you are. Absolutely.
Wow.
And the permitting, they're not doing any more of that down in Chile. Argentina, you could argue, but no, that's exactly right. The permitting on that is getting trickier and trickier. Our footprint compared to a mining project is tiny, because it's all the reservoirs under, you can't see it. You got the pump infrastructure and some pipeline infrastructure and a small facility for the chemical process.
I was wondering also, we talk about a little bit about the property and specifically Sturgeon Lake, and just to give us a little bit of details about that. You know, that's your flagship piece of the property. If you could go a little bit into that.
Well, this is a concession with the Alberta government that other companies, so depending on which commodity or which element, we have the lithium rights for this concession. And this is a concession with the Alberta government. And how that works is every 2 years you have to spend X amount of dollars per acre. And the money that we're spending now obviously keeps these projects in good standing. So there was a previous operator that had done some work here at Sturgeon Lake, and then ran into a very bad market. And then every 2 years you have to spend this money, and I suppose it was dropped. They weren't able to maintain that. And so the money that we're spending now keeps this project in good standing for the distant future. And we will be looking upon a successful PEA to then do the preliminary feasibility study. That's Alberta. So that's how that concession works. Saskatchewan's a little different. That was an auction of which we paid, as noted, over $3 million. And so the duration and the length of how that project stays in good standing is a little different. A lot more money on the front end, and that way it's a little bit more relaxed on the back end. But no difference. Existing infrastructure, as I noted, cost effective, relatively can be done quickly to establish this maiden resource. If we have a resource there, and I'm optimistic that we will, simply due to the success that's already been encountered in the areas there. And then we would engage someone to work on a first economic model there in Saskatchewan for us as well. And it would be normal. The exit strategy for LithiumBank and our shareholders is some kind of a partnership. I can't eat my shares. I am highly motivated to create a benefit for our shareholders, outside of share price appreciation. I believe we will close that delta, and we will be able to catch up to some of our peer group. And then, but also because we have multiple projects within one business, it would be reasonable that in the future, perhaps that should be something that should be separated into a different share. But that's for the distant future. We'll see what happens there. First, it's delivering in the next 60 to 90 days a lot of news flow. So with news, people should understand that there are sensitivities within buying. I'm not going to talk about blackout periods or something like that. These are things that we should not be talking about. But the company has not really put out any significant news press releases since IPO. Rest assured, that's all coming, and I think people will be delighted to see the next 60 days. Well, what we look like by July 1st is not going to be the same company that we're talking about today here in later May.
So you would think maybe in the next couple of weeks we could hear some good stuff coming from you, maybe? Just trying to get that.
Well, we've already given guidance. Hatch engineering is well underway on the PEA, so that's something that we should see 60 to 90 days is, I don't think would be unreasonable. And it's people could look at our presentation actually has a peer group. If you go near the back, we note 6 or 7 companies. The new one is going to be Prairie Lithium when that goes public here in the near future. That'll be another one added to that. So it's interesting for us, as noted before, because we have something analogous to that in Saskatchewan. But just look at them. How much resource, how much elemental lithium, how shares outstanding, and the price appreciation since the summer of last year, even factoring in the markets rolled over here, because we have not had that price appreciation since our $1.50 financing, right? So you just put all that together, and I think it's a great setup for things to come.
We've noticed a significant level of insider buying. So I mean, I would assume that it speaks to your belief and trust in where this company is going. Would you like to speak to that? I mean, not that you haven't already, but just we've noticed that in the last 5 to 6 weeks, there's been pretty heavy insider buying. So that's very encouraging, I would say.
Well, my previous project, LithiumBank, which is now Faraday Copper, actually had the most intensive insider buying of any listed company in Canada, really for about 4 or 5 years. I wasn't doing that because I was a nice guy. I was doing that because it was cheap. And though my average there, I'm up around 500 or 600%. And then look who just invested in Faraday Copper, the who's who. 80-cent financing they did. They didn't issue a warrant. They didn't even pay fees, and I'm up 600% on my position. And now the big money comes in. And I believe Faraday Copper is a 10-bagger from here. So why was I doing the insider buying? Well, it makes sense. If I am suggesting to people that I think this is an interesting speculation and I don't buy one single share, well, who am I? This doesn't make sense. And this is a real problem with junior mining companies. People get these founder positions and they don't support their own companies. So it's logical that I thought that our IPO would be we'd be playing catch up to the peer group. This did not occur. Okay, I will buy shares. And I don't buy a few shares, I buy thousands of shares. And so this is something that I will continue to do. If the share price is below $1.50, to me, this is ridiculous. How can you raise money at $1.50? We raised $8.5 million, and then the market got hot. Yeah. This is absurd. This is completely insanity. So I'm very happy to pay, $1.20 or $1.10 and what have you per share. So it hasn't been any activity lately, but that's the market will remedy that. Mm-hmm. And as noted, the team working very hard, and people should look forward. If they have not signed up for our distribution, I would strongly recommend people to do that. But hopefully the people that are already following the story on your side are happy. They're probably already subscribed.
Right. No, we've got a really good following starting up at Pioneering Markets. They see the opportunity, like we started off the show saying, if you're looking to diversify, you're looking for things that make sense right now, especially with the way the market's going. But I mean, it just makes sense when you hear this repeatedly over and over. Every time you're turning on the news, we already know. Common sense says this is where we're headed in this direction. Zero carbon net initiatives, Oh, and by the way, the extraction process that you are using is the most carbon friendly extraction, because if you get into the hard rock extraction process, that's where it really gets kind of hairy in that area. You doing it not only with a company that's doing something that makes sense, but they're doing it the right way environmentally. putting the funds where they need to go. You've got top management. I challenge everybody that's watching the video, please look at LithiumBank's website. It's very well laid out, and I think Gianni, you mentioned that you're actually adding an update to your website, but the way it's set out right now is very simple for somebody like me that's trying to learn about lithium and the extraction process. You've got it laid out very well. So just for in layman's terms, if you're trying to figure out what this is all about, I encourage everyone to go to LithiumBank's website, and it's very educational on there to get down to the DD of the company.
Yeah, exactly. And go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead. I'll ask a question after you answer.
Well, we could sit here and talk about this all day, and I could pontificate and bend people's arms, and this is a speculation, but the structure and the way it's how do I say this? Stock market engineered, 37 million shares out. If we traded at $10 a share, that's $370 million Canadian. So, and that's what people really want to follow is, the opportunity. I don't believe personally you speculate in junior mining to make 20% or 50%. Warren Buffett once said, and it really counts for junior mining, in my opinion. The value proposition has to be so clear, you don't even need a pencil and paper. I mean, if you've got to get to the point where you're crunching numbers and you have an Excel spreadsheet, it's wrong. You're in the wrong company. You're in the wrong sector. These things have to be straightforward, and they're as a friend of mine, Rick Rule, would say, it's not an if question. If questions are dangerous because you need some luck along the way. When questions you want, when the PEA is done, and when it's demonstrated as one of the world-class development projects, and and when people put it in a peer group, and then you end up with a number, you end up with a valuation, and I will, in my own opinion, and it's a forward-looking statement, that valuation will not be 37 million Canadian dollars. We got a little to augment that. Look at our Saskatchewan portfolio. What's that worth in the spirit of another company going public within the province of Saskatchewan? So you have to attribute some value to Saskatchewan and some value to the Alberta portfolio. So, and RioCan's another one that was bought out, of course, RioCan for 825 million in Argentina.
So Gianni, you've laid out, you have a very strong leadership team, many years of experience in this industry. You laid out very well, the opportunity that investors have here, and where you're headed.
Well, let's underline that a bit more. It's not just there. Paul Matisic's part of our group. He sold 2 lithium companies. He sold, 6 or 7 junior mining companies. He knows what, he knows the sector. So it's people that have, either our Alberta-based engineering team or our, the board of directors and our overall consultants and such. They really understand this space, and I think that that kind of driver, or stewardship is going to pay dividends for the team, I think, in the going forward.
Yeah, one of the first things Pioneering Markets looks at is we look at the leadership team, and it's the people that drive the company, and based on the experience and what you just said there about the team that you guys have, I only see it going upwards. And you laid out very well, the opportunity that you have here. I was wondering, could you just let investors know, what do you foresee as, maybe some of the challenges, coming ahead, any potential challenges and how you'd overcome them?
Well, obviously, when you have, overwhelming negativity, in the market, this is something where people put their hands in their pockets. And, when you look at volumes on the TSX Venture, which is the world's largest exchange for junior mining and resource companies, those volumes have plummeted. They're 10% of what they were at the peak, 10. And they're a third of what they were when they already fell and they were low. They were a third of that. We're at 20-year lows. You have to go before the China super cycle. And this is the velocity of money. People putting money in the stock market. That's not happening right now. And so that changes. It always changes. It's the psychology of the market, and it's greed. Fear happens over a very long period of time, as everyone knows, but greed happens very quickly. And everyone, if you followed any company or junior mining or a sector for a long enough period of time, and you understand the DNA of a sector or the DNA of a stock, and sometimes they're overvalued, sometimes they're undervalued, and every 10 years or so, they go to a point of the stupid value, where it's, and they trade there. And why? It's a stock market. It's trading there because it's trading there. And then greed happens fast is when you follow ABC integrated mining, and it went from $10 to 50 cents a share, and it stays at 50 cents. And you're bidding it at 49, and you say, oh, geez, I don't know what's going to happen. It goes to 51, 52. Very quickly goes to $1.50, and that changes. And as Robert Finley would say, it's like a school of fish, just like that. All of a sudden, it's time to buy. So the question is this negativity going to last years, a quarter, summer doldrums? Who cares? If you're in a DNA of a stock, we don't have our stock trading for 5 or 10 years, so you can actually look at it, but you can look at the peer group. What's the sentiment? And I think that certainly we're closer to the bottom than the top. A good portion of our shares are escrowed, about a third. We've traded 7 million shares since IPO, so those that wanted to get out have gotten out for whatever reason. It was they changed their mind, they're nervous, fund managers need to get some redemptions, whatever. And we will build the base. And I think the base is already started.
Yeah, and I mean, investors can't look for rationale in the stock market because the stock is not the company and the company is not the stock. And that's what we try to preach is patience. We look at the fundamentals of the company and trying to find those opportunities that where no one's looking. And
it's also share structure, gents.
Exactly.
I've been to many conferences. I have keynoted almost every major mining conference in the world. People that have followed me for 15 years, and I always tell people, don't tell me what's in it for me today. 2 years from now, what's the share structure going to look like? How are you going to grow your resources or reserves on a per share basis? How much dilution is coming? These are something people don't want to talk about. Sometimes you get down. And I've been there. It's the company runs out of money, and you have to do something, and you're hoping and willing and praying and what have you. But you need to have a contingency. We always had from the beginning to have a kitty of millions of dollars in case it gets tough, that we are not hat in hand, because the share structure is very important to us. And so and I can strongly say to people that it's not just what I'm going to provide to you today. If you buy a share of LithiumBank, what do you get on a per share basis? Well, I'm going to be able to drive an economic model at Sturgeon Lake, and I'm highly optimistic we're going to grow resources on a per share basis without issuing one single share. That's already in the works. So when you look at what do you get as a shareholder 12 months from now and 24 months from now, you're going to have a lot of accretion. And that's rare. That's very special. And that is not what happens with a lot of junior mining companies, because it's a never-ending financing. And they almost always come at the worst times, and they always come with terrible terms. And they frequently come with full warrants and big fees paid. So I think that's really something that separates us from a lot of other, not just lithium companies, but companies in general. And people are smart. I'm right, and you're smart. Share structure matters. It's what's in it for you in the future.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fantastic. You actually summarized everything I was going to ask here at the end of our interview.
I think we covered it, Jets, exactly. And then we never do a report card, maybe in 6 weeks or something like that. But I think people that knew only peripherally the story, the points are share structure, still have cash, a lot of news coming, peer group, and some new IPOs coming. Prairie Lithium is one. People could look at that company. What's it going to be worth? How does it come out of the gate? But I don't see LithiumBank staying at 40 million Canadian market cap. Now, if it goes a little bit lower, it is what it is. We're in a negative market. But you know what? It's worth more than zero. It's so.
Well, we know, and we're looking long-term investing. We're not looking to flip this.
We're in the valley here, and
right.
So once we start to deliver the value, I'm optimistic, and of course I should be, but I'm not just. I also speak with my dollars. We put hard dollars here at work, and we hope people follow our story and speculate with us.
Well, thank you so very much, Gianni. I think we'll just end it on that note. It's been wonderful speaking to you. It's going to be an exciting adventure to watch the company grow and mature as the years come. We wish you the very best. We always welcome you back here to Pioneering Markets. If you get some news that you want to share, we would love to hear it. Everybody out there that's watching us, that's subscribed to us in our Discord, everywhere else around the world, please check out LithiumBank. Yeah, I personally think that it's just great for your portfolio. It makes sense. Jay, you got anything else you want to say?
No, I mean just that this is a company we're not looking where we've been, we're looking where we're headed, and that's exactly what LithiumBank's doing. So
exactly, 100%. Well, thanks for everybody. Have a great rest of the week in the markets, and as always, keep pioneering the markets. Until next time.